Welcome to the Test Management Mindset, insights into the world of software testing. The best content by Practitest in audio form, designed to keep you inspired wherever you are. In today's episode, we're on the topic of building a future-ready QA team. Software testing today looks very different than 20 years ago, and even compared to just a few years back. Discover the key skills, roles, and strategies that can help you build a future-ready QA team, one that's prepared for the demands of 2025 and beyond. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into something pretty dynamic. The world of software quality assurance, or QA. We've got some great material here that's looking ahead, towards 2025 and even further, focusing on what it really takes to build a QA team that's, future ready.
It really is changing fast, isn't it? I mean, you think back just a few years, and automation was the big buzzword.
Right.
But now you've got continuous delivery, AI is coming into the picture more and more, and just this constant pressure for faster releases. It's completely reshaping what we expect from QA teams.
Exactly. And what really jumps out from this material is this idea that just having good testers isn't quite cutting it anymore.
Yeah, the game's changing.
The focus seems to be shifting, moving towards building teams of, what are they called here? Strategic quality enablers.
That's the term.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit. What's the core idea there? What makes someone a quality enabler?
Well, I think the key word is proactive. It's about not just being the gatekeeper at the end, catching bugs before release. Our quality enablers are involved right from the start. Think planning stages during the actual development, even monitoring things after release.
So way earlier in the process.
Way earlier. They're trying to anticipate risks, get everyone talking, developers, product folks, everyone, and always keeping the user's perspective front and center. It's less about just finding defects and more about ensuring the whole product delivers value.
Right. Thinking like the user becomes a strategic asset, not just a nice to have.
Precisely. It transforms them from gatekeepers into genuine value drivers.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear then. We need to pull out the key skills, the roles that are popping up or changing, and the kind of strategies the material suggests are crucial for building these future-ready teams.
Sounds good.
Let's start with the roles themselves. It seems like that old split, manual testers over here, automation engineers over there. That's getting kind of blurry.
It really is. Those clear lines are definitely fading.
Yeah.
We're seeing much more need for a mix, some specialists, sure, but also these hybrid roles.
Okay.
But, and this is important, we need to tackle that assumption head on. The idea that the manual tester or, test engineer or software tester, whatever title you use, is on the way out.
Yeah. That comes up a lot. Is automation and AI making them obsolete?
The material argues pretty strongly against that, and I think it's right.
So what's the argument? Why are they still crucial?
Because there are just some fundamentally human things that tools can't replicate yet, at least not well.
Like what?
Things like genuine critical thinking.
Yeah.
Real curiosity, that gut feeling, intuition. These are absolutely vital for things like exploratory testing, just diving in and seeing what happens. No strict script.
Right, kind of poking around in the corners.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or assessing usability. How does it feel to use? And finding those weird edge cases, the things nobody thought to automate for.
Yeah.
That takes a human.
Yeah, you need that human ability to ask, what if, or this feels a bit weird. That kind of context, those insights, you just don't get that from a script running.
You really don't. Now, flip side of the coin, we are seeing this other role gain a lot of traction, the SDET.
Right, the software development engineer and test.
Right.
So what's their deal? How are they different?
So an SDET is basically a tester, but with a developer's mindset and skill set. They write code.
Okay.
But their code is focused on building automated tests, frameworks, that kind of thing. They often work super closely with the dev teams, sometimes even jumping into the application code if needed.
So why is that specific skill set becoming so important now?
Well, think about those trends we mentioned, faster releases, continuous delivery.
Right.
To keep up, you need automation that's not just functional, but also reliable, maintainable, efficient. You need robust test suites that can scale.
And SDUTs have the coding chops to build that properly.
Exactly. They can build automation that lasts and actually helps speed things up rather than becoming a bottleneck itself. And the material mentions different ways companies are slotting them in, sometimes right into product teams, sometimes in like a central automation group.
Okay, that makes sense. Integrating testing more deeply. Now, what about bigger companies, more complex setups? The material mentions roles like test architect and quality coach.
Yeah, as things scale up, you often need that higher level view. The test architect is thinking big picture strategy.
How so?
They're looking at, okay, what's our overall approach to testing? What tools should we standardize on? How do we ensure consistency across maybe dozens of teams? They're designing the testing system, if you like.
Got it. Designing the framework for quality and the quality coach. That sounds different. Less technical, maybe.
It's more about the people and the process, yeah. A quality coach is focused on embedding good quality practices everywhere.
Not just in the QA team.
Exactly. They work with different teams, dev teams, product teams, to help them improve how they test, to push for shift-left testing.
Which is testing earlier in the cycle, right?
All right, getting involved right from the requirements or design phase. And a big part of their job is building that culture where quality isn't just QA's problem, it's everyone's responsibility.
Interesting. So it's really about shifting the whole organization's mindset. Okay, that gives us a good picture of the evolving roles. Let's pivot now to the skills. What skills does everyone in QA, regardless of role, need to focus on for, say, 2025? The material lists 6 key ones. First up, collaboration and communication. Seems obvious, but why is it ranked so high?
It always seems to top these lists, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But the reason is context. Think agile, think DevOps. Testers aren't in a silo anymore.
Right.
They're talking daily with devs, product managers, designers, sometimes even support or sales.
Yeah.
So it's way beyond just writing a bug report.
So what does good communication look like in this context?
It's about being able to clearly explain the risk of a bug, not just describe the bug itself. It's giving feedback that developers can actually use. It's contributing effectively in planning meetings, maybe challenging assumptions based on potential quality issues.
So it builds trust and actually helps things move faster.
Absolutely. Good communication avoids misunderstandings, gets issues fixed quicker, and just leads to a better end product. Okay, skill number 2, product and business thinking.
This feels related to what you said about quality enablers. It's not just about bug-free code.
Exactly. High-quality software actually solves a user's problem or meets a business need effectively. It delivers value.
So how does a tester develop that kind of thinking? It sounds like stepping outside the pure testing function.
It is. It means asking questions like, who is actually using this feature? What problem does it solve for them? What does success look like from their point of view or from the business's point of view?
Right.
Testers who get that bigger picture are way better at prioritizing. They know which tests matter most, which bugs are trivial versus which are showstoppers for the user or the business goals.
So connecting the day-to-day testing work back to the why. Okay, third skill, technical fluency. Does this mean every tester needs to learn to code now?
Not necessarily full-on development, no. That's a key distinction the material makes. But having a solid technical foundation, that's becoming increasingly valuable.
What does that look like practically?
It might mean being comfortable with test automation concepts and maybe some basic scripting, understanding how APIs work, knowing the basics of CI/CD pipelines, how code gets built and deployed.
And why is that helpful even if you're not writing the automation yourself?
Because understanding how the system is built helps you test it smarter. You can ask better questions. You can design more relevant tests. You might spot potential issues devs missed. And it definitely helps you communicate more effectively with developers about the root cause of a problem.
Makes sense. Helps you speak the same language almost. All right, number 4, a continuous learning mindset. Given how fast tech changes, this sounds non-negotiable.
Absolutely essential. If you stand still in tech, especially in QA, you fall behind very, very quickly.
So what does that mindset look like in practice?
It's about being curious, willing to try new tools or techniques, not being afraid to experiment, and, importantly, sharing what you learned with the team.
So it's a cultural thing, too. Leaders need to encourage it.
Definitely. Creating a culture where it's safe to say, I don't know, let's find out. Where people mentor each other, share articles, do quick lunch and learns. That's how you embed continuous learning. It can't just be a line item in a performance review.
Good point. Okay, skill 5 is attention to detail. This feels like classic tester territory. Is it still as vital?
Oh, absolutely. That ability to spot small inconsistencies, to think through edge cases, to meticulously check requirements against the implementation, that's still core.
But is there a risk of getting lost in the weeds?
Yes, and the material makes that point well. It's about balancing precision with context, Focus on the details that actually matter to the user or the business outcome. Don't spend hours testing something trivial just because you can. It's detail-oriented, but with purpose.
Got it. Precision with perspective. Okay, last one, number 6. AI awareness. This is the new kid on the block, isn't it?
It certainly is. AI's impact on software development and testing is growing, no doubt about it.
How is it being used in QA specifically?
We're seeing AI assist with things like generating test cases automatically, analyzing test results, even predicting where defects are most likely to occur in the code.
So testers need to become AI experts.
Not necessarily experts, but they need to be aware. They need to understand what these AI tools can do, where they can genuinely help, what their limitations are, and critically, where human insight and judgment are still irreplaceable.
So it's about learning to work with AI tools.
Exactly. Evaluating them critically, knowing when to trust them, when to override them. It's about leveraging AI, not being replaced by it. Staying relevant as this tech evolves is key.
Okay, that's a really solid overview of the skills. Now we know the roles and the skills. How do we actually structure the teams to make all this work, especially as QA needs grow? Structure seems key for agility.
It really is. You can have the best people with the right skills, but if they're organized poorly, you won't get the collaboration or flexibility you need. The material talks about this idea of T-shaped team members.
T-shaped. Okay, what does that mean?
Imagine the letter T. The vertical bar is deep expertise in one core area. Maybe that's test automation for one person, performance testing for another, security testing for someone else.
Okay, their specialty.
Right. But the horizontal bar of the T represents a broader understanding of related areas. Things like basic development practices, UX principles, DevOps concepts, the business domain.
So deep in one thing, but broad enough to understand the context and collaborate.
Precisely. This T-shape means they can contribute their deep skill, but also understand enough about what others are doing to collaborate effectively in a cross-functional team. They can ask smarter questions, maybe even lend a hand outside their core area if needed.
It makes the team more flexible, I guess. People aren't stuck in narrow boxes.
Exactly. It encourages what the material calls stretching horizontally. It's not saying everyone needs to be an expert in everything that's unrealistic, but fostering curiosity and a willingness to learn a bit about adjacent areas makes the whole team more adaptable and resilient.
Okay, that T-shaped idea makes sense for individuals. What about the overall team structure? The material mentioned different models, right?
Yeah, there's no one-size-fits-all answer here. It depends on the company, the product, the culture. One common model is embedded QA.
So testers sitting right within the development or product teams?
Exactly. The big plus here is super tight collaboration, really fast feedback loops. The tester understands the context intimately.
Downside.
Potential for inconsistency, maybe. If you have testers embedded in 10 different teams, you need strong alignment on tools, processes, standards. Otherwise, everyone starts doing their own thing.
Okay, what's another option?
The opposite, almost, is centralized QA. You have one dedicated QA team that serves multiple development teams.
Advantages there. Consistency.
Yeah. Easier to maintain standards, manage tools centrally, build deep expertise within the QA function itself. The risk, though, is becoming a bottleneck.
Right, the central team gets overloaded or maybe feels disconnected from the individual dev team's contexts.
Exactly. Communication and coordination become absolutely critical to avoid that.
So embedded or centralized. Is there a middle ground?
Yes, and that's often the hybrid model. You might have some testers embedded in key product teams for that close collaboration.
Okay.
But you also have a central function, maybe called a center of excellence or something similar.
And what does that central part do in a hybrid model?
It focuses on the strategic stuff, setting standards, choosing tools, providing training and coaching, sharing best practices across all the embedded testers, and even the wider engineering org. It tries to get the best of both worlds.
Collaboration where you need it, consistency where it counts. That sounds potentially quite powerful. Okay, so we've talked roles, skills, structures. This all points towards needing to constantly learn and adapt. Which brings us to upskilling. The material really stresses making this a strategic priority. Why the emphasis?
Because ultimately, the team's ability to learn and grow together is what separates the really successful, future-ready teams from those just trying to keep up.
It's the differentiator.
It really is. Technology changes, processes evolve.
Yeah.
If your team isn't continuously upskilling, they'll fall behind. And it can't be an afterthought, something you discuss once a year at review time. It needs to be woven into the team's fabric. Intentional, ongoing.
So how do you actually do that? How do you make upskilling part of the team's DNA? The material lays out 5 steps. Step 1, start with a skills gap analysis.
Right. You can't plan the journey if you don't know where you are and where you need to go.
Makes sense.
So you map out what skills do we have right now across the team, and then looking ahead at our product roadmap, new technologies, maybe architectural changes, what skills will we need? This helps you pinpoint the specific gaps, both for individuals and the team as a whole.
Okay, so you identify the needs. Step 2 is creating personalized learning plans.
Yeah, because everyone's different. People have different starting points, different career goals, different ways they learn best.
It's not one-size-fits-all training.
Definitely not. You work with each person. Maybe one person is ready for leadership training and mentoring others. Maybe a junior person needs foundational training and a mentor for themselves. And crucially, you try to tie the learning objectives to real work, to actual projects they're involved in.
Yeah.
That makes it stick.
Practical application.
Well-
Okay, step 3, encourage knowledge sharing within the team. This sounds efficient.
Hugely efficient and often really effective. Think about peer mentoring, setting up a Slack channel just for sharing testing tips or interesting articles, doing informal brown bag lunch sessions where someone shares what they learned at a conference, or from experimenting with a new tool.
Learning from each other.
Exactly. It spreads knowledge faster, it's often more relevant because it's coming from a teammate facing similar challenges, and it helps build that collective capability.
Right. Step 4, though, is still investing in external growth. Can't just rely on internal stuff.
No, you need both. Budgeting for relevant certifications, sending people to good conferences, paying for quality online courses, that's still important for bringing in fresh perspectives and structured learning. And sometimes, just giving someone dedicated time to explore a new tool or read up on a new technique is a valuable investment.
Time is key. Okay, finally, step 5. Make learning measurable and visible. How do you measure learning? It's not always straightforward.
It's not just about ticking a box saying, training completed. You need to look for the impact.
Like what?
Are people actually using the new skills in their work? Is their confidence with that new tool increasing? Are those communication issues we identified getting better?
So observable changes.
Yeah, things like regular check-ins, maybe team reflections on what worked well or didn't after trying a new approach, perhaps even tracking metrics related to the skills being developed, like reduced bug leakage or faster test execution if automation skills improved. It's about connecting the learning back to tangible value.
Right, showing that the investment in learning is actually paying off. Wow, okay. This has been a really comprehensive look at building that future-ready QA team.
It covers a lot of ground.
It really does.
Yeah.
And the big takeaway for me seems to be that it's not just about, grabbing the latest AI testing tool. It's much more holistic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that blend. It's having the right mix of skills, thinking differently about roles and team structures, and maybe most importantly, building that underlying culture that really values continuous learning and shared ownership of quality.
That combination seems to be the key. Prioritize the upskilling, be open to new ways of organizing and thinking about roles, and really foster that environment where learning and quality are just part of how things are done.
That's it. That's what builds a QA team that doesn't just react to the future, but actually helps define it.
So, a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Thinking about all these evolving roles, the SDET, the quality coach, and these essential skills like product thinking or AI awareness, which of those resonates most with where you are now or where you want to go in QA? And maybe what's just one small thing you could do, maybe even today or this week, to take a step towards that future-ready ideal?
Good question to ponder.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.